happy? Who is so happy? Who is just so happy? Who is the prettiest girl in the world? Pure, it was gifted to me.
Wow, look at that. Whoa.
That's like heavy grounding.
Yeah.
That's like so different than any of the other crystals that I've worked with or found.
Yeah, it feels like they just pulled it out like the ground, like
literally.
Yeah. Wow.
It's pretty awesome. This one is from Minnesota, so it's from Lake Superior. This one is gifted to me by my beautiful partner and his family, actually. And so this one is very much for grounding, for stability. It's focusing on the root chakra, so helping remove fear, but also really letting you know that you're safe in this world and really grounding and protecting you. This one's a Moroccan agate. And I love this one. This is it's got more ethereal qualities to it. So it works with your throat chakra. So it's for helping speak. It's for helping you with your word and with your message and with the spoken word. And it also connects a lot to the angelic realm. So really, I'll be holding this one when I talk and speaking and allowing the energy to amplify the message of the vibration of the words that I'm speaking today. Big, you know, the Roman Empire is big, but the Egyptian Empire was huge. And just to have that rooted history is really amazing to know that that runs through my blood, you know, on the Lebanese side as well within my family. So they're both very different. I know that my mom's side, just from what I've experienced, that's more of the compassionate, loving, more vulnerable side. And I know that on my dad's side, it's more of like the hospitality, the honor, the respect. So it's a nice balance to have both. Yeah,
definitely.
And so I was raised here though, so I'm first generation American, born and raised here in Los Angeles, California.
That you are endowed with in life, it comes with responsibility with that as well, you know. And it seems like you've been taking a lot of responsibility in your life through your death and rebirth phases as well.
Oh, you think so?
And we'd like to find out more about that. So if you liked, we can go in deeper, and if you want to share with us a situation or a moment that really affected you or deeply impacted you in your life and started that journey for you.
Yeah, I would have to say that the first, like every time I think about, like there's so many moments, right? But like you say, that first moment that really deeply impacted me, and I always have that first memory when I was a child and I was in about 4th grade and my parents were getting divorced. And when my parents were getting a divorce, I come from a big family, so I have 5 sisters. And with that, I chose to leave my family and my sister so my dad wouldn't be alone during this process. And I packed up all of my things and decided that I was going to say goodbye to whatever life it was that I knew, even very young. But I had a sense in my heart that I didn't want someone I cared about to be alone. I had that much love and compassion, and so I packed up all of my things, told my family goodbye, sat outside and waited for my dad to show up, and my dad never showed up. And that was so devastating for me. And from that very young age, I formed subconsciously a limiting belief that I was unworthy and that I was not valued and lovable. And from that very young age, that seed was planted. And from that event, really shaped the rest of this entire, you know, journey that I've been on of searching for my value, searching for love, feeling worthy and feeling that recognition. And it's always have been in a place of searching for that from another person. And from that instant, it really forced me into, as I got older and I was able to drink, into a destructive pattern where I was really searching for my worthiness and love. You know, I was looking for love in the bottom of a shot glass. It's the best way that I can say it, because through drinking I was connecting to people, and that's how it was a social thing. And from that, I, you know, you want me to go really deep, I went into, you know, different toxic relationships. Why? Because again, that wounding from my dad, that male figure from someone that I loved so deeply, didn't in my mind love me enough. Therefore, I was always searching for love. Prove that I'm worthy of you staying with me. Prove that you won't abandon me, that, you know, you love me enough. And so it took me into several destructive relationships, but the biggest one was a catalyst about 6 years ago. And that was really hard because I had given everything to this man, to this person. And all I wanted desperately was to be loved. And I wanted to have a family of my own. And what I was doing was I gave a part of my soul away. I had no boundaries. I didn't even know what a boundary was. I allowed this person to abuse me emotionally. I allowed them to abuse me verbally. Like, I didn't know at that time that someone was telling me things like, you're stupid. You know, you're not good enough. I don't want to marry you. You're not worthy of being a wife. You know, or like, fuck you, something like that. That's verbal abuse.
Definitely.
You know, we don't have to take that. But when you're, you know, like me, I had graduated college at that time. So I was out of college, and it was one of my first relationships out of college. And, you know, all of my college was like very aggressive, you know, very like fighting and pushing and, you know, fuck you, I hate you. And we would get into these fights even where we would get on the phone and we're so emotional. And he'd be like, I can't take this anymore. He's like, I'm going to drive my car off of a cliff right now. And I remember crying and being on the phone like, I love you, don't do that, don't do that. And immediately that started happening to me where I would get so angry and I would call my boyfriend and say, I can't do this. I'm going to run my car off of a cliff. I'm going to just kill myself. I don't even want to do it. Like, you're so caught up in that emotion. And you're so caught up in as I say now, the muck or that chaos that, you know, and even now I'm telling the story and I even forgot that this has been a part of my journey. And I was really at that point where all I wanted was to be seen and to be heard. And I wasn't doing that. And the way that I thought was, I need to kill myself to do this. I need to make a message and a point. And I actually almost did that. I fell asleep at the wheel right by his house and crashed my car. And I almost died. My car was flipped upside down and caught on fire. And I undid my seatbelt. My foot was stuck and I had to pull it out of the brake. And I had a girlfriend next to me who did not wear a seatbelt. And she was pushed through the windshield and had rocks put in her face. And I called him and was like, I'm right by your house. I'm pretty much dead. Like, come and find me. And it was almost like this twisted game that I didn't know that I was playing or running because I was so in it and I had not become awake or had known any better. No one had guided me to another way or dealing with my pain. And so from that, I actually really feel was the very beginning step of, this is not okay. You know, and that was when I got my first tattoo as a reminder of life. I got a butterfly. And it was a reminder that I'm precious. Life is precious. You know, I live this and I'm going to choose to transform from this. And even having that enough awareness going into the relationship that I was in, like I was mentioning 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago, I forgot that. So funny how we forget, right? Like, you go through this experience and you remember tidbits of it, but then when you're so involved in another relationship with another being, suddenly you forget because now you're running these old scripts and these old, you know, behavioral patterns that are just so ingrained in you that it's like, oh, I forgot I almost killed myself. Oh, I forgot I was super reckless and was in a toxic relationship before, but this one's better. Well, it's not really better, it's just different, but it's still toxic. If someone is verbally abusing you and you guys are smoking weed all the time to connect, and that's how you connect, is by getting super high and faded and then like not really talking about anything and numbing, then it's easy to stay in that fog and really not get attuned to the real issues that are happening in your relationship, that there's a disconnect, that you guys are both actually sad beings and are not talking about it, you know, because you're in this fear that you'll be judged or that you're not worthy. And so with that relationship was a huge catalyst for me, because one day we got things got really bad, and we went to a party with my college friends. And I was talking like I always do, and I'm a very affectionate person. My family is always affectionate. And I remember talking to one of my college friends, and I placed my hand, you know, gently on his chest, and was just talking. And we had been drinking. And when we got home to the house, he was being really cold with me, and I didn't understand why. And I kept probing and asking. And finally he just snapped, and he went off and berated me and called me a whore and a slut, and that I'm flirting, and that, you know, I'm not worthy. And it triggered me, and I got upset, and I remember throwing this glass at him, and he came at me and charged me. And that was the first time I had really been attacked abusively. And it got really bad where, you know, we hit each other. He's like, this is really what you want. This is what you want. And he threw me on the ground, and he like hit my head on the ground continuously. And I remember like bleeding and crying, and like finally like kicking him off and saying, you know, get the fuck off of me, you know, in just this aggression and rage. And he's like, you're not even worth it. And to prove that you're not worth it, I'm leaving. And he took his big screen television, a material object over my human life, and was like, I'm leaving, and grabbed his television like very cockily and was like walking out the door. I was so devastated and hurt, and then I just was filled with rage, and I just charged him and was like, you are not fucking going anywhere. Put this television down. And I remember like putting the TV down. I remember he grabbed me and he just threw me. And then he took my front door and he threw the front door, and he literally broke the entire framing of my front door off the hinges, and like just a rage. And he's like, you're a bitch, fuck you, and like grabbed it and like walked out. And I remember crying there, like bleeding, and like looking at myself and being like, what the hell just happened? And then my ego was like, you cannot do this to me, you know, and my own protection mode. And I remember running out and through the hallway, and I had a narrow hallway that was filled with like stucco, but like rough stucco, and running through that hallway and like being like, you cannot do this. And I remember he's like, you're just a bitch, and he threw me on the wall, and like my whole shoulder was just roughed up by the stucco. It was bleeding like to the meat where it was white and just blood. And I remember he went into the street, and I just like, I knew at that point like I had to just stop. And that was something for me, like I'll never forget that, because that was something where I went beyond everything that people tell you, you know. Don't be with someone who's abusive. Don't be with someone who talks badly or treats you to you. You know, all these things that your family tells you and that society tells you that is not okay for you. And yet in it, you feel like you can change that person, or you feel like you can fix it, or a part of you feels like you deserve it, like they're right. And, you know, even I have goosebumps talking about it now, because it's, like it's so true. You know, we're not taught how to experience a different kind of love, especially coming from a household where it's broken, where my dad was abusive and talked horrible to my mom, you know. He choked my mom almost to death, you know, and I still was choosing to leave my family to be with a man who did this to my mother. And my family was still supporting me leaving. So of course, you know, at the age of 25, I think it's okay to be with someone who's like that, even though they tell me not to. Why? Because from that young age, it was ingrained in me that it was okay. And even then was such a hard time. And even then with all that drama that had happened, what did I do? I chose to forgive this man. And I took a month off to be by myself. And I sat every day and reconnected to Spirit and to God. And I asked, I love this person. How can I forgive this person? But not the way that we're taught in society to forgive someone. Not the way humans forgive someone. Can I forgive this person the way that God, the divinity, forgives? Which is not holding a grudge, not throwing things in their face again, not having judgment, not making it about me or making them suffer for what they've done. Can I truly in my heart find the forgiveness for the soul, for the mistakes that they've done to me? And can I set myself free through this forgiveness? And the answer that came to me was yes, you can. And so I chose to forgive him. And I did a lot of self-work. That was the catalyst to beginning my spiritual journey. And what I started doing on that path was finding out, researching, what does forgiveness mean? What are all the definitions of forgiveness? How do people forgive? And I remember that I got this book that was called How to Forgive When You Can't Forget. And it had all these stories of people who have lived this life of refusing to forgive and how much they missed out on. I remember clearly a story of a father who was so upset with his daughter at what she had done that he never reached out to her and was so upset with her that he was going to his dying day of never reaching out to her to seek forgiveness, and on his deathbed was wishing that he could reach out to her, and went and passed without ever having that peace in his heart. And through forgiveness, I also learned the importance of having self-esteem. And through forgiveness, through learning what forgiveness means, through having enough self-esteem to also forgive myself and stop removing the judgment on myself for putting myself in this situation and for being so hard on myself for allowing these things to happen to me, I was able to forgive him. And through that forgiveness and through slowly understanding what spirit was, forgiving myself and seeing that there's so much beauty in this world and life, I was able to have a deep conversation with him and tell him that the only way that I could forgive is if I saw that he also was choosing to forgive himself for what he did. He sought help for himself. Then we could communicate in a more safe way that was healthy. Because I forgive him doesn't mean I'm going to forget what happens, but it means that I'm now going to also learn how to create a boundary for myself, which was so important for me. And that was the catalyst for me. And by being in that relationship, it taught me how to forgive, how to start to wake myself up to a bigger presence outside of myself, how to reconnect to my own spirit. And it really was the catalyst for me to find out how to gain more self-esteem and self-love. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I didn't love myself. I loved the way that I had looked. I loved the way that I interacted with people. I was a social butterfly. Like, I loved dressing in my heels and to the nines, but it was superficial. I didn't feel the love in my heart. I didn't know what that fulfillment felt like. And so this relationship was a huge, huge gift for me, because I was able to grow in ways through the mirror of relationship that I never would have been able to without him in my life. And so I have so much gratitude for Chris for being in my life and coming into my life in a place where we were both very lost, and both met when we were in a very low place, in a low situation, and we helped lift each other up in certain ways, and we were mirrors for each other to really see where we both really needed to grow. And if it wasn't for me deciding to draw more of a line in the sand for myself, he wouldn't have done it. And that cycle could have continued to repeat and repeat and repeat. But it was me choosing to grow and see that in my own experience, by shifting the experience that I'm choosing to feel happy, to choosing to feel healthy, to making a choice to not be in any toxic situations, mindsets, conversations, that when I interacted with him and I felt that, it just gave me more clarity that, wow, okay, this is not serving me. Wow, we're not in alignment anymore. And also, it was teaching me what that actually meant. The more that I learned what that meant for myself and practiced that daily on my own.
Started changing yourself before you started changing the way you think and who you are.
You know, I was holding on to them for years. You know, that whole thing happened in 2011 when a lot of that happened. So imagine from being, in the 4th grade to, 2011, which I was, 25, I think 26 at the time. And all of that, I was carrying all of that baggage, that emotion, But when I started really doing a lot of the work, slowly starting to bring more awareness, the biggest thing was I didn't know how to release the emotion. And so what I started to do was a journal. Free-form writing, journaling helped me so much, and meditation helped me so much. And so that's how I started to slowly cope and understand and release, and talking about it. By talking about it, what did I do? I released the shame that I felt around it. By choosing to remove the judgment that I had and really choosing to forgive myself, when I speak about it, I forgive myself. So because I'm forgiving myself, others also are not going to judge me and look at me like, oh, you don't deserve it. Like, it's my mind. It's constantly practicing that change, that mindset, that changing of the mind. And so, it was several years before I could cope with that. And, honestly, I thought I was giving a really good handle on it, but I spiraled out of control again. I would say 1.5 years after that relationship on my own. And because I wasn't able to cope with what I thought I was doing, I was like, I'm going to stand in my power. I'm not going to let anyone abuse me. I'm going to be this independent woman and stand and be so empowered, right? I'm going to be so empowered that I'm going to choose my lovers, because forget jealousy, right? I'm going to choose my own life and do whatever I want to do. And what I realized was I may have started developing boundaries in relationship, but I did not develop boundaries in myself. And that's when, again, the emotions came up. And I ended up getting really destructive to where I was going out and partying and drinking a lot on my own, because I was like, I'm independent, I have my job, I have my car, I have my house. I'm gonna go and have a glass of wine and date multiple people and just, feel what it's like to be a free bird in this world, right? And the truth of the matter was, I was doing it in a way that was destructive because I faced the darkness and I dared into that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just I can handle anything in this world. But really, I couldn't handle myself. I couldn't handle being alone. And that was a whole other beast for me. Being alone with yourself, me, myself, and I. Oh no, I was not okay with me, myself, and I. I was escaping me, myself, and I with alcohol, with sex, with chasing affection all the time. And that was my entire life. So how was I coping? I was coping with avoiding. I was coping with numbing, and really went from a love addiction into more of like a sex and intimacy addiction. because I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to feel what it was like to just be alone, because I wasn't happy. I couldn't even fulfill my own need, and yet I was still looking for that. And the reason that that all came crashing down and forced me to deal with it, which I think is where you're going, is I got a DUI. And this DUI forced me, the universe, God, forced me to stop and to slow down and to deal with it by putting me on house arrest and by taking away my freedom in the form of an ankle bracelet. And so I had to wear an ankle bracelet for 30 days in this house. Couldn't go anywhere. And was like, you're trying to run away from yourself? No, girl, you can't run anymore. It's you, yourself, and I. You're alone. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You have this time and this time to leave the house between 2 and 5 o'clock on certain days. But that's it. Again, another big way that I was doing that was with sex. And even on house arrest, even the universe being like, no, I'm going to go deeper into that. Even with it saying no, oh man, I chose to, again, step out of that line and not choose self-love. I wavered away again from self-love. And I went on a blind coffee date with this guy that was only a few blocks away. I set it up because it would be close to my house, right? I could be back and forth, easy, no problem. Wore a long skirt, so he didn't know I had an ankle bracelet on. Connected at tea, and we had a good vibe and connection. I was, once that dopamine hits in and there's that attraction, you go into lust, and then that attraction and addiction comes up again. And so it's like, okay, well, I just live down the way, do you want to come over? And so I'm not supposed to be drinking, I'm not supposed to be going out partying. That's what this house arrest is about. Yet I create, because we are such powerful creators, I create a situation to push that. And so I invite him to my house. Of all things, that moment was my rock bottom. Not the DUIs, not the abuse. This random stranger in my house immediately devaluing me, abusing me putting myself in harm in this situation, having this complete breakdown. And for days I just sat and cried and cried and cried and was angry and was yelling and was writing. Didn't know what to do. I was so weak. And I was so battered. My spirit was so battered. And I remember reading something that it triggered so much in me. And I remember reading this quote that said, God, I am so weak. Please fill me with your strength, because I can't do it. I cannot do it. And I remember just saying that to myself every day, right by that window, looking outside at the world that I could not be a part of, because I created that. I took away my freedom. I took away the love. I created this depression, this sadness, no one else. And I was too weak to create anything else. And I needed help. And I knew that I needed a greater force than myself. And so I prayed. I just went back to my prayer and continued to ask every day for the strength of the angels and the strength of God to fill me and to lift me. And I chose wholeheartedly to make a commitment to loving myself. No man, no one in my life, me, myself, and I, and how to love me, myself, and I for the person that I was, because when I looked in the mirror, the woman that I saw was ugly. And I didn't recognize her. I didn't see my true soul in my eyes. I just saw darkness.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. They say a lot of times in life, you know, we go through traumatic experiences, and a lot of times they're ingrained in ourselves, in our blueprint, in our energy systems, and it's not until we go deep and release those and go back to it that we can finally transition and go to a higher place in our lives where we can transcend that trauma. And I know that you've been through many different, you know, waves up and down. And how have you released those traumas?
You know, I have to say that the most transformative healing modality for me has been energy work, and the simplest of things, crystals. Oh my God, I love crystals. And that's allowed me to release so much trauma. I was holding on to a lot of it, and a Reiki master came into my life. And his name is Gogi. I will never, ever in my life forget him. Writing is one thing, journaling is one thing, but we have a huge variety of healing modalities out there that are available to people, which is why I, was inspired to form and create Soulscape Journey, my company with Megan, which offers a wide variety of healing modalities. Because when I was in this time, I had no idea that anything like energy work or crystal therapy or transcendental meditation or sound therapy or light therapy existed. And so for me, I was seeking change. I was seeking healing, but I had no idea what that looked like until I went to Burning Man 3 years ago. And when I went to Burning Man 3 years ago for the first time, my intention was to seek healing. And I didn't know what it looked like at all. And what it showed up as was in the form of this 5-foot man, yogi, whose name was Gogi. And he gave me a choice. If you look at it as like the Matrix, do you want, the red pill or do you want the blue pill? What do you want, right? And one was the traditional route and one was the non-traditional route. And it was, again, to me, we always have a choice. What are you going to choose? Non-traditional route. That's what I'm here for. I've traveled all this way, packed in the middle of the desert, people I don't know, to seek something that I know exists, but I don't know what it looks like. But I'm just saying yes, and I'm checking in with myself if this feels safe, right? Important thing, does this feel safe? Yes. My body opens and says yes. Okay, proceed. So I proceeded. And it was life-changing. And I don't just say that lightly. I mean, I had a complete energetic transformation. He massaged and did a regular massage, but I had no idea what energy work was. And he started to move energy, and he started to pick up on things that I had never told him or anyone. And as he was feeling into my energy, it started to get me to believe. And as he started healing in my heart, he told me, you have a very heavy heart. You're holding on to so much sadness. You've been forgiving, but you still need to let go of this forgiveness. You're still holding on to it. And he asked me to call out the people's names that I need to forgive. My mom was one, for being a drug addict and having us be homeless on the streets and through the foster care system. The second one was my father, for abandoning us and leaving and being abusive. The third one, because I know there's a third one, and the third one was the name of my molester, who I had not forgiven in my heart. and was holding on to this anguish and this anger and this deep-seated pain. And he knew it. How did he know it? Because he's a healer. Because he's an intuitive. Because they can feel things without you saying something. Why? Because we are all one and we are all connected. That was my first introduction to that. And at that point, he comes through after that reprogramming and he tells me what it is that you want. What is the one wish that you want in this world? And of course, me being a big being of love, I want a partner. I want this mirror of relationship. I want this man to come in and be this mirror of love and light to reflect back this love that exists inside of me. And what did he say? He came and handed me a mirror and said, look at you. You are the mirror that you are seeking. It is not another man or anyone in this planet that you need. Look at who you are. Look at all the things that you're seeking is inside of you. And my eyes were sparkling. They were literally a shade lighter of brown. And I understood what he meant. That I don't need to seek approval or love of anyone else. That it was all in me. That I was the divine love that I wanted. That I was the approval and the validation that I needed. It was all in me. And that was the most transformative thing for me. And he told me as I'm looking at myself, my dear, your old fairy tale story of this Prince Charming, this Disney fairy tale that you've been programmed to believe has now been done and is rewritten. You can write how you want your story, your love story to be. It is up to you. So how do you want this to be? You be the queen. And he came and he put, I had on Minnie Mouse ears at the time because I was at Burning Man, right? So he came and he handed me these Minnie Mouse ears and he started to channel in his energy into me. And he was a Reiki master, so he transmitted his Reiki energy to me, one to another. And he crowned me. Oh my God, he crowned me. And he told me that my name is royalty. And today, royalty is born. And that I'm a healer. And that I need to go out and be me and who I am in this world, because it's so needed.
Yeah, definitely most needed, yeah.
So needed. So that was my first introduction to energy, to crystals, to understanding the reprogramming, that energy is in our DNA, that we can reprogram ourselves, that we have a script running, that someone who doesn't know anything about us can see us and meet us and hear us on such a deep, profound level that I have never known in my life. And to help with that integration, he came to me and he said, you know, this is a really big healing that happened. I don't do this and I want to help you integrate, which I know now in the work that I do is so important to get you to understand. And so we went on a journey that night and he brought a shaman, and that was my first time meeting a shaman. And they took me on a 24-hour shamanic journey of healing, of profound transformation, of insight through plant medicine, through the relationship of mirror, through holding safe space and container for me, for allowing me to dance it out, to connect to the earth. And I remember when he was teaching me about the power of your mind and intention, and not just your thoughts become things, but prove it. Prove it. And I remember we were in the field dancing and doing sacred ceremony, and I remember being out on the playa and being so filled with love as an open channel that I started to cry, and the first tear came from my eye. And we're in the desert and it's 90 degrees at night. And as I cried my first tear and just surrendered, it just started to rain. Rain and just wash away everything. Everything. And I literally remember dropping down on my knees again for the third time in my life and surrendering and being like, I believe with everything in my being. I believe in a higher power. I believe that I am the creator of my life. I believe that it's up to me to choose. And so from that, I've experienced a wide variety of healing modalities, meditation, and he actually gifted me this crystal, my first crystal ever, which is a Lumarian clear quartz crystal. And he sat with me and taught me how to meditate with the teachings of the Vedic teachings, and told me to meditate with this in my right hand and asked me what it is that I want to do. And we sat there and set an intention for me to transition my work to finding my life's purpose. And we meditated for hours with this crystal. And he told me that it would happen. And to continue to hold this, and no matter where my journey takes me, I will always be connected to him through this crystal. And so, Gogi, I love you. I honor you. I celebrate you. I thank you so much for showing up as a powerful healer in my life and making me feel safe. And literally, within not even 3 months, that dream that we talked about manifested into reality in a way that was supported, where I had the download of my life's mission, which is to guide people out of their own darkness and into the light, and was supported in a way of leaving my very high-end job and career and into this field of healing.
So, it's so interesting that the universe brings like people to you when you're ready. And they say when the student's ready, the master appears. And it seems that you've been getting these synchronicities at Burning Man and in your life. And I'm just interested, who else has inspired you? Who else has, what other kind of modalities have you gotten interested in?
So interesting, because even before I went to Burning Man, I started noticing the signs and the omens, and the universe gives you these little breadcrumbs. And
for sure.
The way that started happening was when I was at work. It was so funny. A hawk, which is a spirit animal, would come to my office again. Really pretty office, corner, balcony, and it would come and sit at my window and just stare at me of like, are you gonna leave? Are you gonna go outside today? What are you gonna do? Like, something's happening. You're not feeling right. And finally one day I decided to leave my office and go on a walk, and I went a way that I normally would not go. And as I was walking past from like getting a tea, this guy walked past me, and he literally just started reading my third eye. And he started saying, backache, headache, heartache, backache, headache, heartache. And that's what I was dealing with. This was before the burn. And I stopped. I was on the phone. I was like, I gotta go. Let me get back to you. And he started to read my third eye. He was an Indian guru. He was an Indian sage from India. We sat for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
He told me, and you want me to prove it to you? Write down these numbers. So I wrote down these numbers. We did this thing. He wrote down these numbers. He goes, show me your paper. I showed him my paper. He's like, let me show you what I wrote. Identical. Identical.
That's amazing.
It was so amazing. And so I've met with different Indian gurus and sage teachers that have been into my life. Different shamans have come into my life. And as I was mentioning, that shaman journey that I did when I was at the burn took me to the temple at the end of our at the end of this journey. And what happened there was me stepping into my healing, my healing gifts and my healing powers, not knowing what that meant or what that looked like. And she guided me there, and as I walked into the space, there was a procession that was happening, and it was a square. There's 2 people on each side, so there's 4 people, and in the center of it was a woman, and she was like hunched over, covered in dust, like sad, crying, like just very broken. And I saw her, and my heart was like, you know, that instant pull, like we are one. And this man came behind her, and they started to do this very much tug of war dance. And what they were doing was a ceremony. And so they were teachers in this space, and they were healing us through their energy and through their story. And the story was about her being broken and not having strength and not having the wings. And as I mentioned earlier, being so weak that you need help. She was so weak that this person came and gave her this breath of life. And like she suddenly opened, and as she felt love, she wanted to run and escape. And he kept pulling her back to come in and ground her energy, to finally she could expand and breathe and was this life and was alive again. And I just started bawling and broke down and like started feeling this release even in me that was happening. And my shaman came and was hugging me. And then she became so strong that she then had to support the man that had helped her become strong. And so going into, you know, even the previous about that strength and knowing how strong you are, not needing to see the mirror of relationship as something that gives you strength, but knowing your own strength, where you can actually be that support, and showing the dynamic of 2 strong people giving and receiving and supporting. And that was a huge lesson for me. Huge to see them both awakened, king and queen in their space, and then walk out into the sunrise and have all of the people who held space for them joining. And then me walking out, and I told her, like, I have to leave. I was the only one wearing white. They were wearing white. Coincidence? No. Synchronicity? Yes. And I followed them out into the sunrise. And I remember they did this prayer, they did a ceremony and procession. And I remember like trembling, like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like, is this wrong? Is this right? And I just went with what my heart was saying. And I just kept hearing, yes, this is right. And I stood there, and they turned around and they all looked at me. And I remember like almost falling. And she came running to me and grabbed me. And they all came and cloaked me with a white cloak. And they did a chanting circle around us. And they just started chanting and praying. And her and I were just heart to heart connecting and crying and feeling and seeing the sparkle in each other's eyes. And it was a new mirror of relationship. Woman to woman, person to person, sister to sister, supported by everyone, healing through the vibration of mantras and chanting of ancient wisdom. And that was another profound thing that had happened to me, and another modality that I had never experienced before in my life. The power of chanting, the power of the collective together coming to hold space for you. So foreign to me, but so needed for me. And I have so much gratitude for that. And that really allowed me to understand more what that means to just reach out to others who you don't know, that it's okay. And felt the energy from the earth. I was so tuned in. I was so present with myself and the energy of this earth that we all are living beings from, that feeds us, that it was coming through my body. And I felt like I was ascending. And I remember this woman had come around behind me, and she says, you are having a massive release. Can I participate? And she came behind me like wings and like lifted me up to help me build my voice and my strength, and really have me be this full channel from above as below from my heart, and just be so connected to Mother Earth. Then I knew something was different. I knew it. I felt it. It was in my full being. And the fact that I was feeling energy now and was so attuned and so open to it, something was just different, right? And we started walking to the temple, and all of a sudden a man started yelling, just crying out in pain and suffering. And the girl that I was with was like, we have to go in. Try it. I go in, and I see the man kneeling down by the altar. And as he's kneeling down by the altar, he's in pain, he's crying over, and again, not open to receiving, not ready. I just felt something wasn't right. And so I surrendered and just got on my knees, and I just gave gratitude for the massive transformations that have been happening over the last several days for me. And just said, if I'm meant to be here, here I am. Show me what I need to do. Otherwise, I'm humbled, and I have so much gratitude for all of this. And so with that, I heard him come up, and he says, water. Water. I need water. And I had a canteen, and my canteen probably had about this much water in it left, like almost nothing. But I felt called to give him water. And so I said, hey, I have water, like come over this way. So he comes over to me, and I'm giving him the water. He goes, no, like I need you to give it to me in my mouth. I'm like, okay. So I start to pour it, and he just collapses in my lap completely. That was the first time I experienced anything like that. And so I just intuitively checked in and held him and held the space.
Bank collapsed when you're giving water in your arms and your lap.
Yeah, so he collapsed right in my arms and in my lap. And so I intuitively checked in and held his head in my lap, and just started to breathe with him, and just feel him and feel his energy, and just hold his head like I would hold a baby, right? Just in love, in compassion. And I remember him looking up at me, and he was looking at me, he was like, no. He was going through so much, and he was looking at me, and he's like, you're really beautiful, but I can't. But you're really beautiful, but I can't. And I'm like, brother, friend, that's not what this is. You are safe. I'm just here to hold space for you. And he was able to surrender and let go. And he started trembling and shaking, and I just held him and started breathing with him. And I felt this tingling in my head. I felt this energy, like, spirit from above coming through my body, tingling everywhere, and just feeling it onto this man, and feeling him tingling and vibrating and holding space, and seeing him fearful and trembling, and yes and no, and not knowing what's happening. And he starts talking to me about how he's getting married, and how he has all of this fear around lust and sex and commitment, and can he be committed and can he not be committed? And he loves her, but I'm so pretty, but he doesn't know what to do. And he starts like kind of convulsing and like having these releases. And I just connect, and I just put a signal out for just guidance. And I called in other healers. And next thing I knew, I had these two women, beautiful angels that were chanting, came in, placed one hand on his heart, one hand on the back of his head as I held his head. Then I had a friend of mine who I call Papa Bear, comes out of nowhere, synchronicity, comes through with two of his guys, two of his healers, come in and hold space for this man. One on his belly. Everyone was on each of his chakras, holding space, one on his feet. And he just started having these massive convulsions. His pelvis, his root chakra was just releasing all of this lust and darkness and fear and doubt. And he started going through this massive release. And in that moment, I really realized the power of giving and receiving and believing and practicing. Just a few days ago, I was this person. And here I am holding space for another. I mean, how could you ever imagine that happening? You know, my hands are shaking even now because it's like, I could have never imagined this in my life. That I could be a part of something, let alone calling in and leading a healing circle for a man that I don't know, to help him heal, to find a deeper level of love, to open his heart to the woman that he loves, to fully, wholeheartedly commit to her and this marriage. And I was chosen for this. The divine works in just the most mysterious ways, and there are so many lessons for me that I learned from that healing and that circle. Love is not superficial. We are trained to see a person and either know that we're attracted to them and we can lust after them or desire them. We forget that there's love. We forget that they're us, that they're our brothers, that they're our sisters. And when we can strip away just the superficial aspect of the lust or the attention or the sexual desires and connect to the love, we can lean into that love and experience a deeper level of connection and love. So that's been where my life has been from that moment on. And I've worked with different, Vedic meditation teachers. I've worked with pranic healers. I've worked with different shamans. I've gotten involved with plant medicine and ceremony now as well, which has been very transformative for me. And the biggest thing for me was really choosing self-love and knowing that from self-love comes all love. And how do I put that into practice? Well, I took a woman empowerment program, 6-month program. I became a certified life coach, not necessarily with the goal to help others, of course, but with the tool how to help myself. So I'm empowered, so I'm evolved, so I can know how to love myself and hold space for myself. That's been the biggest thing, and that's now what's given me the wisdom from the ancient wisdom traditions to the scientific and logical traditions of psychology, spiritual psychology I've studied. Deepak Chopra has been a huge mentor and teacher for me without him even knowing. As he knows, he has millions of people, I'm sure, that he is inspired. But towards him particularly, I just have this deep, profound love, because before any of this happened, he was my spiritual teacher, and teachers like Brene Brown, teachers like Marianne Williamson, A Course in Miracles, Return to Love, Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, like all of these amazing teachers. The Alchemist was a huge book for me too, of really understanding the hero's journey and knowing that life is a journey, it's not the destination. And when you can stop focusing on this end result and get really present to every day, you can find the joy in every day. You can find the beauty and the love in every day. And you're not in this rush to just get around and operate in the busyness of life. We create these to-do lists and these checks that keep us busy. But we're busy and we're too busy because our mind is busy and we forget to slow down. Developing a spiritual practice was huge for me. I say that saved my life. Taking time to love me, to sit and meditate, either with music or in silence. Having my own mantra. Having my own positive affirmations. Checking in with myself. Connecting to crystals. Meditating with them. Allowing the different vibrations of energy to fill me, where some days I'm not as filled up. and knowing that that's okay, because that's a part of the journey. Tomorrow's another day, and every moment is a new moment. You can shift it. You have that power. And practicing that every day and spreading that little bit of sparkle everywhere that I go. You know, we forget to be kind. We're in this world of suffering and separation. You know, it doesn't cost us anything to smile at the garbage man. That garbage man is a human being. He could be your brother, he could be your father. You know, we forget that we are all just one. You know, you are me, I am you. We are one. Whether we're men, whether we're women. We all pain, we all bleed, we all breathe, we all pee. You know?
Yeah, we're all from source.
Yeah.
Beautiful words spoken. Most definitely. And now you're learning all these modalities and integrating everything in your life, and it seems like you've grown so much, and now you're like giving it back and helping others, and with your soulscape.
Yes.
With you. So if you want to tell us a little more about what you're doing with your soulscape.
Absolutely, yeah. So through all these modalities and teachings and the wisdom that I've gained, I am teaming up. I have teamed up with my best friend and my soulmate sister, Megan, and we created Soulscape Journey about 14 months ago. And the whole idea about it is it's the journey, right? And soulscape we've created into more of like a verb of soulscaping. And we all landscape, right? But it's the same thing. It's excavating, it's clearing out the muck, the depression, the emotions, these negative beliefs and traumas that we're holding on to, so we can pull them up from the root, clear out the weeds like you would do in a garden, plant new seeds to grow and develop, and teach you ways to nourish and fertilize it so you're able to grow and blossom all the different seeds. And we do that through immersive wellness events, workshops, like you were at Illuminate, you know, so through Illuminate, it was an amazing immersive workshop where we incorporate different modalities. We had sound healing bowls and singing vibrations to help heal through the process of releasing. We do, I do guided visualizations and meditations, and we back that up with binaural beats. You know, Megan brings in her powerful gifts as an evolutionary astrologer and how important that goes into you and your makeup, you know, in your DNA and your gene code. She shares that wisdom with you. And we do a lot of immersive wellness events. We've created pop-up healing centers where we make healing accessible to people through these events. So if people have never experienced energy work, Reiki work, crystals or crystal therapy, you know, or knowing about your chakra system, it's all available to you. And with that, we do these workshops where we guide you through an 8-step process, and we're continuing to develop more and more workshops as we grow. And what we've developed now is the gym membership for the soul, which we're so excited about. It's our monthly tribe membership, and it's a way to stay connected directly to the community. It's a way to get consistent support for the busyness of life. And so we're both really enthusiastic about the moon and the energy that the new moon and the full moon gives you. So we release, you know, talks and information on that, as well as guided meditation. And we've developed a virtual book club where we continue learning and gaining wisdom. And we want everyone in the tribe to do the same. So we all are learning new things together, and we get on these group calls where we talk about the lessons that we learned, what was the challenges that came up. We hold space for each other and really move through. And so there's all tons of goodies. And so I encourage, you know, everyone to go onto soulscapejourney.com, you know, /membership to really check it out and find out for themselves if this is something that you're interested or not. And really going on that journey, you know, we plan on doing retreats. We've got a women sexual empowerment retreat coming up next year in April, and we're getting into corporate wellness as well. So that's where we're going along, and we'll be taking trips to Costa Rica and Peru and guiding people on the real journey to deep, profound healing. And we're just so excited about it, you know, and through that, platform I share with a lot of my clients, and Megan has her clients, and so I see a lot of one-on-one clients for, you know, empowerment coaching. Yeah.
And where are you? What's the next step? Where I know you were talking about growing, you know, this with Megan and yourself, and I just want to see like where you're going. And you said you have a book coming out, and and where we can reach you at as well.
Yeah,
all those links.
Yeah, that would be awesome. One thing that I want to share as we do close is I am working with Soulscape, which is a company in a relationship, but I want to also emphasize what I'm also learning on this journey as I continue. What's next for me is learning how to be independent in the context of a relationship, any relationship, to keep my own identity. And so with Soulscape, it's my relationship with Megan and what we're building, but I'm also focused on building myself as Josie Love Bashout, as my own identity, which is why I'm doing, you know, my workbook, The Love Method, and right now I'm looking to see about getting it published, which would be amazing. It's gonna happen. And working on my own book, which I'll save the title for. But that's where I'm going. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can, you know, go to soulscapejourney.com and find my information, or you can email me directly, you know, at josie@soulscapejourney.com, and you'll be able to find me on Facebook easily, Josie Love Bashout, you know, and Instagram same as well. So anyone, please, if you feel called, please, you know, reach out to me and message me. The love story ending, I don't know what that will look like in the physical form. I know what it will feel like. And my ultimate love story has me feeling fulfilled, has me feeling excited, blissful, elated, has me feeling safe in trusted intimacy with my partner, and supported and grounded and seen, and where I can give love and receive love equally, and where I stand on my own as a queen in my life and relationship with everything that I've done and built, and am seen for that, and no one wants to change any of that, because that's who I am. And my partner stands strong as his king and my king in his power of the journey that he's done and where he's gone and what he's built for himself. So we're both independent, but choose to be together in a relationship, not to complete each other, but choose to be with each other because it makes life that much more better. So my love story involves me, Winnie, love of my life, and we travel the world, continue doing healing, continue growing together, but also the freedom to do that independently, and continuing to support each other's growth and evolution, however that looks, knowing that we are not attached to each other through codependency, but we choose to be with each other through the power of love. Hi, I'm Josie Love Bashout, and I'm interviewing for The Love Story. I too have loved and lost.